I love my children, and I want them to be successful.
Well, smell it here. How do they smell? Good?
The research is very clear, it's undisputed. The greater likelihood of a child's academic success is directly linked to family and parental involvement.
Educators have looked at family engagement as that extra piece. But families are a part of education. Families are an educational strategy.
If we really want to go from being a good school to a great school, if we want to close the achievement gap, we can't do it without partnerships with families.
There are 5,000 schools across our country that the U.S. Department of Education has identified as failing, where a majority of students are not reaching academic standards. One common denominator many of them share is families who are minimally or not at all involved in their children's education.
Every parent wants their student to graduate. Every parent wants to see their kids come home with test scores of 100% or better. We have a lot of kids who not only aren't coming home with those kinds of test scores, but who aren't even graduating at all.
Up to a third of our kids are not going to graduate from high school, or if they do graduate from high school, they won't have the skills they need to succeed in any kind of post-secondary education. We have a real education crisis.
The crisis is worst in urban and rural communities where the majority of low-performing schools are located, and the achievement gap is widest.
When you have in excess of 50% of students who are failing, that is not an area where we need to be a little bit better at. We really need to look at transforming education. And one way to do that is to engage the families of those children.
We know more needs to be done to get kids out of this achievement gap, and I think our time is up.
Efforts focus on a number of core strategies, from increasing school accountability to improving teacher quality. But there is one area that, if tapped, will raise student achievement dramatically.
You like made up stuff.
Family engagement.
He did a nice job on. Good job. I don't know that he has a whole lot that he needs to improve on.
The school-parent partnership is an essential component of a child's education.
We have 40 years of research that shows that family involvement in kids' learning and development at home and then at school is one of the strongest predictors of how kids do in school.
The research is very clear, it's undisputed. The greater likelihood of a child's academic success is directly linked to family and parental involvement.
What's your name? Oh, is he a pharaoh?
Parental involvement, I'd like to almost rephrase that and call it parental engagement. To me, being involved means you do a bake sale, you color t-shirts. Parental engagement is just totally different. It means becoming part and parcel of the decision-making in education in our country.
In the past, and perhaps even in the present, family engagement, while it's being talked about, has not really been looked at as a key strategy to student success. And in fact, it is. No matter the socioeconomic status of a family, no matter where a family lives, no matter their culture or their race, when a family is engaged in their child's education, that child is more successful in school.
See a tan wedding.
I just like watching my kids just to see their reaction from things. Kids are like sponges, so they're gonna absorb everything that you teach them. I just try to encourage them every day to be the best that they can be. I want to show them a father figure, something that I didn't have.
Baby, come on.
All right, Alicia, let's see what you're gonna mix in there with that yellow. What color did you get, baby?
Green.
You're doing a good job, baby.
Thanks, Dad.
It really is a tale of two cities. In some communities, particularly communities that have lots of parental involvement, lots of father involvement, our kids are doing better academically. But in some communities, minority communities, or some of the poor communities in particular, where father absence tends to be higher, we know that we've got some issues there.
In all honesty, I never really felt that it was a true team. I always felt that it was a perceived team. Like, here's your role, this is what we do. We don't need you to interfere, but when we want you here, this is what we need you to do. And so a lot of times parents don't feel like they have a voice or their voice is being stifled. It's very important for parents to have voices about issues, about things, so they can be role models for their kids. A lot of times I don't think they even recognize that their own power. They have the power to influence, the power to impact and make change.
As a result of No Child Left Behind, where many, many educators now understand that they alone cannot educate children. And they're looking to families for help.
Let's go into the library. Ooh, this looks like a fun book. Tiny Green Thumbs. What number is that?
Those families can be an enormous help if you reach out to them and together shape ways for meaningful family involvement at home and at school. If educators are able to do that, I think it will raise the needle on student achievement dramatically.
Good morning. How are you today? Being a school in need of improvement, we can't do it alone. We need the support of the parents. So we want to make sure that the parents are on the same boat with us. There is a need. This is a school in their community. Let's work together.
Family engagement is really the key, and one of the key missing ingredients to helping students achieve more and to reach their potential.
This is unacceptable.
I think we all have a part to play, but I believe firmly that it's parents who are going to reform education. It's parents who are going to significantly close the achievement gap.
Very good, Hanifa.
It isn't always as easy as it seems, but it's far more important than anyone can imagine.
The first report card, I was crushed because his average was a 69. He has never gotten a 69. And I was crushed. I wanted to cry. Like, what am I doing wrong? His games, that PS2, done. And everybody was just transfixed in front of the television. And I said, you know what? This is it. No more television. I think she means writers help us look at the world differently. Okay, did you write this?
Yes.
Okay, so Oprah Winfrey states, I will go into that school every day before I went to work and look at his classroom, sit in his class, speak to his teachers, so that he knows I am present and accounted for. I am proud of myself that I can take my household and transfix it into something amazing. A little sparkle lit in the boy's eyes. It's something I learned from my father. I love my children and I want them to be successful. And he passed that power on to me.
Today, schools need families more than ever. In the past, and even in the present, education has not prioritized family engagement. The focus was on what parents should do, not what schools should do.
One of the things that I discovered when I talked to principals was that they really didn't know what we meant by partnership with families. We need to start with putting up that mirror and looking at it and saying, am I really, really an advocate for partnerships? We developed a rubric that went from 1, below basic, which is what we call a fortress school, to a 4, a partnership school. 1 below basic and a fortress school. Not really a friendly place for families. Sometimes you hear teachers and school staff say things like, well, you know, our parents don't care about their kids' education. A 2 is basic, and that's a school we call a come if we call school. We'll call you when we want you to come to the school. You don't call us. A 3 school, now we're cooking. That's an open door school. Really, you know, trying to engage families. They have an action team for family engagement. That's a key piece. But it's still pretty much school-centric and not parent-centric. And that's when you move into partnership. When your parents are really involved in decision-making, when people aren't just using the school as the place where everything happens, where the staff is actually going into the communities where the parents live, maybe doing home visits, maybe doing programs at a community center. And this is where everybody's working together and they're really supporting children's learning.
Today, we invited you all out so that we can celebrate your children. Clearly, you are parents who are highly involved with your children, which is why they're being honored here today.
Many of those parents really are very interested in doing more. They really are engaged, but they don't know how to help their children.
1997. You see?
Many of them, it's a language barrier. In some cases, it's that they don't have the same kind of educational skills that they would like to have to help their children.
Everybody is facing the stress of lack of time, work pressures, financial issues. So I think we need to be doing things to engage all families. I think we need to be making extra effort to engage low-income and otherwise disadvantaged families in their kids' learning and development.
When you read a particular book, explain the picture and actually go into and say to them, you think it was cold at that time? And then they go, oh yeah, look at the snow.
What I did was I started buying cooking books. And not only did it help him read, but it also helped him with his math.
So piggyback on what you're saying, it's not strange to me because when we go to the supermarket, honey, we're on a budget. So not only are you reading what's there, but let's look for what's on sale, look for the market.
It's very simple. Children live in families. They learn the most, and the reinforcement is the greatest in families. And so we can train teachers to understand families better and help families understand why education is so important. If we can reach them, then that, to me, that's the greatest success we can possibly have.
I got involved because I just thought that's what every parent should do. I think when you go back to high school and what did you want to be when you grew up, I knew I wanted to be a mom and be a PTA mom.
What's 100 minus 15?
85.
Yeah.
I think that we have to get creative with the ways that we're gonna involve each other.
Let your brother do it.
Maybe you have to offer babysitting during a parent meeting or dinner. One of my child's teachers had a fairly comprehensive newsletter. It made things seem a lot easier and a lot less intimidating. And I think that, even for those parents that can't come into the classroom, broke down a barrier, make it seem as easy as possible to those parents to let them know that it doesn't take a lot of effort to just pay attention to what your kids are doing.
If the school reaches out and says to families, you are our partners in supporting your child's learning, and really walk the talk of that so the secretary greets the parent when they come into the school. There's a family resource room. Maybe there's a parent liaison in the school.
There is no such thing as a hard-to-reach parent. I actually believe that we're hard to reach. The educators are hard to reach. Our schools are hard to reach.
If we're going to get away from what one expert calls random acts of family involvement to a more systemic approach, we need the involvement of school officials, superintendents, principals, and teachers. We need the involvement of the people who train them so they understand the value of family involvement.
When they asked teachers what was the #1 area that they felt least prepared when they were taking on the role of new teachers, they said family engagement. So we know that if we don't really do this in our pre-service programs, we're really doing a disservice to our new teachers.
I tell my students, and I've told them for years, it's not that parents don't want to be involved. You know, sometimes we push them away.
Families are too important to their child's successful education. And if teachers aren't confident in developing a relationship with families because they're not prepared to do so, then we're ultimately setting that relationship up to fail instead of succeed.
With SH, so sheep.
Yes. We need to remember that not only is the focus here working with the children, but also collaborating with the parents.
He went to the library.
likes that book.
Yeah, he was telling me about it.
And I honestly must say you people have done a fabulous job this summer making the parents feel comfortable and important. They come to us not terribly confident about what they know how to do. And in truth, the things we're asking them to do to help the kids improve are fairly simple.
It's 4 square writing. It's to plan his writing. If you put the topic or the introduction sentence in there.
It's nice to have some guidance as to how to pull out the best in his abilities. What works for one child isn't going to always work for another, but they may have a strategy that I never thought of, and, oh, I can try that. And, you know, when I see it work at home, it's excellent. All for you, and that was great.
I think we have to put into all teacher preparation programs a requirement not a wish, but a requirement, that the sociology of families and how to work with parents are required clinical experiences and coursework.
While we need to prepare teachers and schools to engage families, we also need to broaden our vision of family engagement, recognizing that many of today's low-performing students did not begin school ready to learn.
Ready Set Parent has been offering newborn classes here at Women and Children's Hospital since the late 1990s. We've been so
If we are going to transform education, we need to reach out to families during these critical early childhood years. A child's education begins at birth.
You can start reading to your baby right now. They don't exactly know what you're saying, but they are learning language development and vocabulary. Readers are better writers. Readers are better spellers. Readers do better in every single subject in school, even math.
Who's the gardener in the house? It's the parent. The gardener in the house is the one that is fertilizing the soil with that child from early on.
Toddlers that have been read to know a few thousand words. Toddlers that have not been read to only know a few hundred, and that difference is huge.
You have to educate the parents to understand how to fertilize that child garden. Take them through and give them guidance. All of our work will be much more successful when we get parents early on working with children.
The entire community's got to be worried about this issue. Schools have got to open up and be willing to sign ongoing partnerships with folks that know how to do what they don't know how to do.
So the inside is now an octagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Buffalo Alliance for Education came to the Tonawanda Engine Plant and asked us to be involved with a school in the public school system. We are members of this community and we have a responsibility to the people that live here and work here.
300, okay.
And maybe a few years from now, maybe we'll get to see the result of it, that the kids here might be future electricians or engineers or assemblers. So when you program it, you guys always get it right, or is it sometimes trial and error?
It's trial and error.
Is it? Not only are they holding the Math Academy, but there's a workshop sponsored here today for the parents, so that they have an opportunity to help the learning process continue in their homes.
Come on, Mommy. We take away those 2 12s. What you got left?
We have a long way to go to make sure that we can talk to each other and look each other in the eye and say, family engagement has really arrived. We're not there yet. As a matter of fact, I think we just got on the train.
I'm going to play with my cars.
Parents, we want to also say thank you very much for reading with your children every day. Thank you.
Partnerships among schools, families, and community groups are not a luxury. They are a necessity. Our focus must be intentional and strategic. Strong leadership by principals, teachers, and parents and community leaders can turn visions of family engagement into a more consistent reality.
If we really want to go from being a good school to a great school, if we want to close the achievement gap, we can't do it without partnerships with families.
So circle which picture.
We have an opportunity now because we know schools alone don't educate children. It is time for a national movement to really begin to get the resources that are necessary to make parent involvement meaningful.
It did not take us 5 or 10 years to see the type of educational chaos that we see currently, and it will take us longer than 5 or 10 years to move beyond that. But together we have the capacity to really deliver on that, and every child in this country deserves the same opportunity.
You've got to believe that your families are willing and able to build their capacity to support their children's learning. You got to believe that parents are equal partners. And that's scary sometimes for folks. And then finally, you've got to believe that as the educators, we've really got to be the ones to extend our hand.
This presentation was made possible through the support of the New York State Parental Information and Resource Center, a program of the U.S. Department of Education Office for Innovation and Improvement, advancing family engagement as a solution to increasing student achievement. Visit the New York State PERC website to find the PERC Resource Center in your community. This program is part of the On the Same Page Summit for Family Engagement in Education initiative, a collaborative effort of EPIC, Every Person Influences Children, the New York State Parent-Teacher Association, and the New York Newspaper Publishers Association.